So I think we have the most beautiful couple in the world sitting with us to interview today.
We've had a lot of couples, but I'm telling you.
You all are kind.
You two are stunning. Honestly, Allen and Jennifer Parr are with us, and they're embarrassed now, I'm sure. But I got to ask you this. Have you ever done any modeling?
I definitely have not. No, not at all.
And people say you look like Denzel Washington.
You do.
You do.
You totally do.
I'm a little afraid of you right now. You know, in the Equalizer, you might take me out.
Right.
Jennifer, have you?
No modeling. No professional modeling.
Well, if you're listening on just audio right now, you might want to go to the YouTube channel, Family Life YouTube channel, and take a look. Because I know Ann and I are so good looking, but we're nothing compared to this couple.
I would concur.
We're so old. Are you kidding? But you guys, we're really excited for you to be here today. We've been talking to Allen about your book, Misled. But now we get to hear your story and your journey, because we just found out, I didn't know this before, that Allen, you didn't get married until 40. And did you say it was on his birthday?
Yes. Our wedding anniversary is on my 40th birthday. Well, on my birthday. Yeah.
Well, tell us your story. How'd this happen?
Yeah.
I mean, because people know, at least Allen, do they know you as well on YouTube?
Yeah, Jennifer, you're on too.
Yeah, we've done some relationship videos, so it's been fun. And I sneak in here and there. What a lot of people don't know is when we started the ministry was the year we got married.
Oh.
And, just two people that have a heart for the Lord. So my background is in communications and journalism. And so I was behind the camera and I was like semi-producing and he was in front of the camera and we were trying to keep our videos to 5 minutes or less. So I'd be like, wrap it up, babe. Come on, we got to go.
Yeah.
But he's such a theologian and, you can just preach for hours,
Rambling.
right?
Yes.
So I don't think a lot of people know that, but now, I'm a mom as well as a wife. And so
you've been married how many years?
8 years. It'll be 9 this November.
And how many kids?
2 kids.
And they are how old?
7 and 5. 7-year-old girl, 5-year-old boy.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
Parenting is real in this season.
It's real.
At one point, we had 2 under 2, and that was really stressful.
Yeah. We
boy.
tell people that the hardest phase of marriage is when you have little kids.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because you're tired.
Yes.
You think that they've gotten them to sleep through the night, but then
Did
they
you
get
hear the way
sick.
he said he's tired?
Yes. Or they're teething, or then you go on vacation, or there's a time change, and everything changes.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Because you
And
work
you're not
all
in
day.
your 20s having a 5-year-old and 7-year-old. You're in your 40s.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a different world. Yeah.
So talk about
And
how
I don't mind saying my age. I'm in my 30s, late.
All right,
late
you're
30s.
young. You're young.
Late 30s. I turned 40 this year.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, how'd you guys meet?
Well, I'll let you start. So I'll just set it up. We met on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2014. And why don't you kind of start us off a little bit about what you were doing and how we met?
Yeah, so that's like the most cliche date to me. Valentine's Day.
Seriously.
Like the worst day for singles. If you're a Christian single,
Yeah,
right?
'cause
Because
you
you're trying to do the right thing, but you feel the pressure of just having to be in a relationship.
And you feel alone. You're lonely.
Feel alone. So our church had an event. It was a singles event, and I was just serving. I was a greeter at the door. And I was not there looking for a relationship.
But then Allen
How
walked
could
in.
How could you turn down Denzel Washington walking through the church doors, right?
man.
And coming through my door too. But
He did?
He did. And I think it's really important to understand that I had been in so many unhealthy relationships, even though Denzel looking like was walking through the door. I was so laser focused. I didn't even see him. I
Didn't
was
notice
just
him.
there to serve. Didn't really notice him. But I had a conversation with him.
But I love that you didn't, in a way, because you were so focused. You just said, I was so focused on serving, which feels like the opposite sometimes. We're so focused on finding this perfect person if we're single.
Yeah, but I want to know if Allen noticed.
Oh, I noticed.
Yeah, I thought so.
I
That's
noticed.
what I
I
figured.
don't know what she noticed, but I noticed for sure. And that's what led to us having a conversation. And we talked, like I said, people were, dancing and listening to music and eating and things like that. But I was like really struck because I had, dated different girls before I met her and couldn't seem to find the right girl. And there was something about that conversation that we had that first night at this party that was different for some reason. I just felt something different. And my friend, who actually happened to be the best man at my wedding, he was with me because he was single too. And I told him after we talked we talked for about 45 minutes or so, on and off throughout the night. Just kind of, I'd go back and find her and we continue our conversation. And I told him, I said, something is different about her. Something is different about her. So essentially after that, I'd say about maybe a month later, we started going out on what she'd like to call appointments, because she didn't want to call it a date.
Wait, I have to go back.
I was laser focused.
Okay, so Jennifer, when you had that conversation, did you kind of feel that same thing? What was so unique?
Yeah, so I do remember our conversation. It's just that I didn't want to engage my heart too much because I had done that in the past too early. So I was just serving, and he was another guy that walked through the door that I was saying hello to, but I stopped my heart there. What I do remember, though, is that he did keep coming back. The intentionality was what I noticed that night that I had not observed before, because most guys, you're at a singles event, it's at a church.
Yeah.
You're making your rounds, right? You're making rounds, but he kept coming back. So that was the first sign of intentionality that I think is so important that for a man to have when at least pursuing a woman.
You like that he wasn't afraid to come back.
No,
he wasn't
was not.
passive.
No,
yeah,
he was
not. Confident, it sounds like.
Yeah. And my big afro didn't even scare you, because it was a 70s party.
Oh.
So I had a big afro and I had sunglasses.
Not a real, not a real hair.
Yeah.
Like she put one on.
Yeah, but I was in.
She was in costume. Yeah, she was in. So
you were dressed in the clothes that we grew up in.
Basically.
Yes, exactly.
See how it's coming back now?
I know,
and now it's
No
in.
bottoms.
I know.
So what's interesting is that another reason that she didn't mention as far as not engaging her heart is that little did I know that when I met her, she had already been making plans to move to Washington, D.C. To work out there, because she had never lived outside of Texas and felt like she wanted to explore and, kind of spread out a little bit. And so we started dating, and in my mind, I'm falling in love by the second. I'm thinking this is the one for me. 2 months in, I've already communicated on the third or fourth date my intentions about, hey, I'm here, I'm serious. I'm not trying to just, find somebody just to hang out with. I'm a minister. I'm looking for a ministry partner. I'm looking for a wife. I'm serious. And I thought that she was kind of on board. And then like a month later, she hit me with, yeah, I got a job offer in Washington, D.C., and I'm taking it, and I'm going to be moving to D.C. And in my mind, my whole world was like shook right then and there. I'm like, how could you do that? Don't you not see we're building something here in Dallas? Well, you're going to complicate our relationship by making it long distance. And so I had a choice. Yeah, I know. This is like a drama.
I know.
Well, you notice how that intentionality came back in, right? I had prayed for a man that had good intentions, godly intentions. And when he said, I'm not looking for a girlfriend, I'm looking for a wife, I was like, are you talking to me? Like me?
Had anyone said that to you?
Nobody had ever said that to me. So I had prayed for that, and then I got it. I feel like God gave it to me, and then I became fearful.
So you're afraid.
So I was like, all these doubts came out. Am I going to make a good wife? Am I ready to be a wife? Is this what I want? But this is.
Or what if he's like the other guys?
Or what if he's like the other guys? So I took that job because I think the enemy had done a great
you left.
You left.
Oh, yes.
I left.
I thought you were going to say you didn't go.
I left. She left.
I took that job and I left. And it wasn't his fault, but prior to meeting him, I was in a relationship that I had turned down a job to stay for that person and it didn't work. So I was so laser focused. And then you throw in doubt, you throw in fear, all these things that the enemy can just take and run with. And I said, peace out.
Yeah. She got in her car, packed all her stuff, moved to DC. And for the next year, we were long distance dating.
Long distance.
So you continued.
Yes.
So you continued to pursue her.
We continued, and both of us, neither of us had experiences before that were positive with online. Not online, but with long distance dating.
Yeah.
It just complicated things. It made it difficult. But there was something in me. There's something special that I said, you know what? I've not found this with anyone else.
What was it?
Okay. So what was it? That's what people want to know, right? I feel like with every other woman that I had ever dated, I call it the big three: physical, emotional, spiritual, right? So for all, and I kid you not, every single woman I had ever dated before her, there was always one of those three that were missing. Either I was physically attracted to them and spiritually they were on point. We could pray together. We could talk about the word, but there wasn't like a friendship connection. There wasn't like a joy to be around each other. We didn't laugh. We didn't have fun together. There wasn't like a sense where we could talk all day and it wasn't these awkward silences and different things like that. Or it was the other two, right? Yeah. Hey, we could talk all day and I'm physically attracted, but they don't love Jesus, you know? So I met her and I was like, wow, I checked all the boxes. Everything was there. And I felt a peace about that. And so I said, you know what, even though she's making this decision, what I didn't want to do is give her an ultimatum and say, hey, if you really want to be with me, you need to stay here, because I knew the Spirit of the Lord told me that if I do that and she does stay, she could resent me for a long time, not allowing her to go away. And one thing I'll say is that it's so amazing to me how short, you know, like how, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, short term, our thinking is so short term whenever we think, oh, you know, we're going to be away from each other for a year. Are we going to be able to make it? Like, we've been married 8 years now and we hardly even remember. That was like, just like it's just so, yes. I mean, so we need to be careful not to make long-term decisions based on a short-term reality. That's you know, our short-term reality is we're dating long distance for a year, but don't say, whoa, I'm just going to give this up, because you could be missing out on a lifetime of love. And I'll say the last thing is that talk to them about how that really helped our relationship as well.
Oh my goodness. A solid foundational friendship. When you remove the physical aspect of a relationship, you have no choice but to focus on other things. And so this was the first relationship I had been in where while we were dating, I grew closer to Christ than to him. Most guys want to pull you in so you can get connected to them. But my relationship with the Lord grew so much, and it was because of our conversation. We had Bible studies over the phone. We talked for how long? Tell them
7
the record.
hours. We had one conversation.
What?
We have the screenshot.
You guys, this is like a Lifetime movie.
Yes.
We showed it at our wedding.
We have the screenshot. When we got off the phone, I screenshotted it. We were on the phone for like over 7 hours.
You didn't like? Was it late at night? You didn't
It was. We started the conversation at like
probably like 8.
Okay, we used to do that.
Didn't get off till 3 or 4 in the morning.
You know, I'm thinking about it. We did the same thing. We started dating. Dave went to college in Indiana. I went to college in Kentucky.
Long distance.
Everything. We had not spent 5 days together. We had not spent 5 consecutive days together until we got married.
Wow.
And so we did the same thing. You're right. We just talked.
Yeah. And I think what you just said about the spiritual component, that you're falling deeper in love with Jesus. I remember one night after dropping Ann off at her parents' house, I get in my car, I'm driving home. I'm 21, 22 years old. I had never been in a Christian dating relationship in my life. I was pretty new Christian, about a year now. And every one of them was without Christ. So
well, she said she was.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
And I said,
they say. That's how they get
you know that story too.
I know that story.
And honestly, I said I was. Right. I wasn't. I really wasn't.
You weren't a disciple.
But I remember driving away from, literally backed out of her driveway. I'm leaving her house and I scream impromptu at the top of my lungs, I love Jesus.
I bet that was the best scream.
Oh, I remember it sort of reverberated in my little car and I'm like, what did I just say? And it hit me. Spending time with this woman is making me fall more in love with Jesus.
Right.
Where I remember comparing it, like when I left my old girlfriend, it was I love sex.
Right.
I love her.
Right.
It was never this. And I remember just thinking, this is the way God wants it to be.
Right.
You're falling deeper in love because of the person you're spending time with.
Because we're going on mission together.
Right.
So good.
And that's so
good.
different.
Right. We call it purpose partners.
Yeah, we
feel
feel
like
we're our purpose
we feel like that's what God put us together. We're purpose partners. We are able to fulfill our individual purposes at a better level together than we ever would.
We always said that. Because I remember the first time we talked for a long distance. It was just one of our first dates. I thought, this guy is going to change the world for Christ. And I want to do that.
Right.
And so it said, I don't care if I'm not with him, I'm going to do that anyway. But together, what would that look like?
So what happened? Did you get married the next day? What happened?
Well,
Yeah, so I love that you said that because something started to happen in my heart as well. So remember when I left Dallas, I was fearful, right? I was fearful of this wife or being a wife or being pursued by someone who was looking for a wife. But as I was in DC, I was just plugged in. And as I'm growing spiritually, I realized like this city's great and I'm doing great things here, but it means nothing if I'm not doing it with the person that God has called me to do it with. And there's a light bulb moment that went off because before I left Texas, I told God, isn't that funny? I told God, I'm not coming back here. Like, you know, you're not
Right.
coming back here.
Should've
And I know,
known.
I'm sure God was going to be like, okay, Jennifer.
Yeah, just wait.
Just wait. And
because she
I-
loved DC.
I did.
Loved
Oh.
it, especially from Texas.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
bet.
I mean,
Yeah.
just for a lot of reasons, but one, just seasonally, I'd never
cherry
experienced
blossoms?
cherry blossoms. I
Oh,
didn't even know what a
yeah.
cherry blossom was. I got there and I was like, wow, there's a whole festival around this. But, you know, you can have all that, but it means nothing if you're not really able to really live out what you feel God has called you to do and to do that with someone who's on the same mission.
Yeah.
So I just remember having this light bulb moment and it was like, he had been the one the whole time. I just needed to see that and trust what God had put on his heart too to lead me as well. So during that 8 months
Oh, yeah.
before I had that light
Yeah.
bulb moment, we developed a solid friendship. And this is one thing I would say is so important is
Oh,
just
yeah.
to have friendship. Because now looking back, we're in the thick of it. Like you said, parenting in this
Yes.
season of marriage can be a little hard with little kids. Sometimes we may not love each other, but we like each other because we're friends.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I miss my friends.
It's
Yeah.
You
true.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so
Yeah.
that dating allowed us to develop a very solid friendship.
Tell
Yeah.
me what you did with your fear because you were so afraid to step into it.
So I trusted God. And I know that sounds so cliche, but we can believe we can do things by ourselves. And I felt like I could go to DC, I could conquer that city, I could do it all by myself. And God slowly softened my heart that you need me. You need me. But not only do you need me, you need a man who submits to me that will lead you. And so that's another thing that I would say is that during this dating season or prior to Allen, I would always focus on chemistry. You know, oh, me and this guy don't connect, or we have great chemistry, but he may be toxic, but we have great chemistry. I know we're going to talk about red flags, right?
Yeah.
But I missed all those red flags focusing on chemistry. And this was the first relationship where his character trumped our chemistry.
Ooh, that's
he had
good.
such a, and he still has solid
can see
character.
it.
And so I think God was trying to show me that this, focus on this. He has great character. That's not going to change. Focus on me. And the fear slowly started to melt away.
'Cause chemistry can change sometimes over the course of a relationship, course of a marriage. You know, you have, moments where you feel things strong and other times you don't. And, it can kind of, but character, you're right.
Yeah.
Also,
Chemistry
I would add,
will change.
Yeah, chemistry.
Totally.
Yes,
It will
yeah. It will change
Yes.
because, different seasons, right? I mean,
Yes. Oh,
when you're
yes.
7 months pregnant and hormones
Yes.
are raging and,
Hormones.
and
Ooh.
it's like, okay, well, chemistry looks a little different in those times, I mean,
Do you still love me, babe?
I still love you. I still
like
love you. Still love you in all seasons. But I was going to say also something else that helped you with your fear. You had some godly women
Yes.
in your life that helped you see kind of like, hey,
Yes.
really encouraged you
Yes.
about, what's more important to have this career and be this career woman,
Right.
in DC, crushing it and slaying all your career goals? Or is this what you want to be? Or
Yes.
do you want to have a family one day? Do you want to settle down? I think you had some really good women that helped pour
That's
into
important.
you too.
Oh, it's so important. I think that if you're younger or just as, the younger generation, there's no reason to be scared of older people. Like they're old because they're wise. Lean into that. I had some women who spoke life into me and just said, Jennifer, this is great, but I just want to give you a perspective
Yeah.
of what, is important long term, right?
good.
And don't be fearful of this. Focus on that. And so that really helped because fear is natural. It's a real emotion and
Yeah.
it's okay to have.
But I love too, you meet each other at a church, at a singles event.
Mhm.
You've got godly women, probably from that church, that are pouring into you, that are giving you feedback. And I think sometimes as singles, we're out places trying to meet a possible mate, a future husband or wife. And I love that you're at a great church. And I think that would be a great step for a single person too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Go ahead.
And I was going to say, I've seen the Lord do an amazing transformation in my wife. Because when we did meet, I mean, her career was very, very important. And
What were you doing?
I was doing communications, journalism, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was, she was wanting to move up. And then she even actually ended up getting the dream job.
Ooh.
And she was working for Toyota. I mean, just a great company. She loved the company. And I'd say about 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we made the decision to bring her home so she could focus more on family and ministry and different things like that. And that was a huge sacrifice. And that really was more, God put that on her heart.
That's
it wasn't
cool.
me pressuring her, saying, I need you more here. The more she was trying to juggle, and I know many of our listeners will understand, appreciate this, she was trying so hard to juggle being a mom, being a wife, and being, working full time at a very demanding, company, demanding job and you loved it.
And I loved it.
That was the thing. It wasn't that you didn't like it. You loved what you were doing.
Job.
And it just created a lot of difficult tensions in our marriage dynamic.
Yeah.
I mean, picking up the kids from daycare and sometimes being the last one. Then I'm up there trying to do videos and I'm like, well, I can't pick them up because I'm in the middle of doing this. And it was just so.
And you could have pressured her
Yeah.
into feeling all
Did
of
not.
that or making her feel guilty or manipulate the situation, but you let God just.
The Lord did a transformation, and she came to me one day. It was like, I just
Wow.
feel like as much as I love my job, I feel like the Lord is calling me to give this up and be more available for my family. And she's done that. And I can say that I personally think that was one of the best decisions that we could have ever made for our family.
Have you ever regretted that, Jennifer?
Absolutely not.
Wow.
I grieved it. I grieved it, but change is not always change is a good thing. It's not bad.
Yeah.
And I grieved it for about 6 months because that's all I had known. But I realized I was grieving something that I had put so much into. It became my identity. And I think God was softening my heart to say, I didn't give this to you or this opportunity to you to replace me or just replace your identity. And it did that, if I'm being honest. So I grieved that, but then I had to unlearn a lot of things to now learn, okay, this is a blessing. This is a gift. And so it's been amazing. I'm trying not to get emotional when I think about it, but it really has been. And once again, we talk about character. That character came in where he never pressured me. It just was, okay, babe, you're ready? All right, I support you in this. And he supported me when I was in it, but that was what that wise woman was showing me.
Yeah.
That character is way more important than all these other things you're looking at in a godly partner.
And I'll add one thing too, is that I think my wife is from West Africa. She's from Nigeria. So she comes from a line of very strong women who have careers. Some of them were kind of the primary breadwinners financially in her family. And that was one thing that she had to deal with is, well, how am I going to contribute to our family?
That's
how am
where
I
some of
going
that
to help?
identity.
Yeah. How am I going to help? Because all I know and all I've seen is strong women who are doctors, lawyers, accountants, CPAs, different things. And they're doing these things. And she had to deal with, well, what am I going to,
what's my contribution?
Yeah. What's my contribution
Right.
now going to be to the family? And that's why I say I see a transformation in her, because she didn't realize at the time that just being a present mother and a loving, supportive wife is a greater contribution than you could ever imagine for your kids, for your husband. And I'm so thankful.
Well, it's interesting. We were going to talk about 15 or 10 or 5 red flags.
200.
We're out of time.
The Lord took in different conversations.
But I want to highlight something that you said, that this whole story is said about a red flag. Character trumps chemistry.
Absolutely.
Just the way you said that, I'm like, that's a book title. That's a chapter title.
Yeah.
Elaborate just a second on that, because again, we have a lot of, there's singles listening, there's dating couples listening, but a lot of parents are trying to help their young children or older children, could be your age, 40 and dating.
Yes, send
And
this
they're like,
to them.
You know what? And again, we can send them to your YouTube channel where you talk about 15 red flags, and I listed them all. I've got them all here, and they're awesome. But that one right there is
Everything.
important. And Alan just said, physical, emotional, spiritual, they all three matter. But if you would highlight that, why is character so important? Because we live in a culture that says chemistry is what it's all about.
Right.
If you don't have that, forget it. But, and again, we're not saying it isn't important,
Right.
but compared to
Absolutely.
character, right?
I think we make a lot of decisions based on our feelings.
Yeah.
And chemistry is feeling based. It's how we feel about that person, or how does that person make me feel?
Mhm.
And that's important, right? It is important. But I don't think Jesus teaches us to operate on just feeling, right? And character doesn't change. Your character is heart rooted. You know, with the Holy Spirit, it's grounded, and that typically doesn't change. If someone were to come to me and say, "Oh, we heard Allen Parr robbed the bank," like I'd be like, "Not my Allen Parr," because his character. You know, we kind of drift a little bit, but we always come back to who we are.
Yeah.
And that's that foundational piece, I think, is way more important than the emotional based, right? And so that's why I look back and the decisions we've made together, his character creeps in. I'm just like, yeah, of course he didn't pressure me, because that's
who he
is. And I think if you're single, you know, it's okay if you've made some poor decisions based on your emotions, especially as women, right? But God gave us emotions for a reason, especially women. It's not a bad thing. I just think it's important to, as we grow, to focus on what doesn't change, and that's God. And even the characteristics of God we see, they don't change, right?
Thank you all for making it to the end of the video. And if you want to see more, then here's another video that we think you'll enjoy. And there's also a subscribe button. So if you're interested in keeping up with our content, do that. Hit the subscribe button. And then we'll see you again next Saturday.